One of the big trends that has been a part of the constantly evolving US society has been the changes that are being need to be made to law enforcement, like finding de-escalation tactics, getting the right person like a mental health expert to come in and handle situations that maybe the police aren't the best ones to be dealing with. So, in this era of new training that's supposedly coming, who would you want to train police officers to do their job better? Well, according to the Tallahassee police, it's retired Navy SEAL Eddie Gallagher. Because if anybody knows anything about solving situations without violence, not murdering people, it's, the U.S. military industrial complex. You see, now this is very disconcerting because Gallagher was accused by his fellow SEALs of indiscriminately murdering civilians when he was stationed in Iraq, and was one of the ones who took a picture of himself holding a murdered with an Iraqi prisoner, and was also accused of murdering an Iraqi prisoner. Now, you would think that a person like this would go on trial for what they did. Well, he did, and he pled guilty to a lesser crime of taking a picture with the dead body being something that was wrong, and then was reprimanded for that. Except that it doesn't even end there. Even then, he still got a presidential pardon from Donald Trump. Now, this is the guy that they've decided will teach the police to be kinder, gentler, and not a bunch of murdering psychopaths. This is a symptom of a larger problem within the United States. Obviously, since the events of September 11th, 2001, there's been a massive militarization of police across the country because apparently the police are anti-terrorist forces, and thus should treat all of the public like they're terrorists or potential terrorists. Even that whole innocent until proven guilty thing and the Constitution and whatnot. So, you already have a problem there. You see, another guy behind this whole retrain officers with people with extremely shady backgrounds is David Grossman. Now, he's a guy, also a former soldier, who did a speaking tour where he said that the main thing for soldiers is that they should be trained to kill without question and not feel bad about it afterwards. Now, he was criticized by fellow military service personnel and experts, etc., who said that he didn't understand the particular ins and outs and reality of killing in war. And that, despite saying we will train them not to feel anything, you're either a complete fucking psychopath or you have feelings and regret. Kind of why mental illness is so high in veterans. But that's besides the point. These are the people that are being used to train the police to not be so, murderous, indiscriminately killing civilians, particularly the black ones. So think about this. So these guys, they have all their connections. They got out of the military. They're with private companies now. The ones like that are basically military contractors. They're mercenaries, but they're technically not mercenaries. They're security companies or executive protection something or other. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And these are the guys that are being trained to make the police better. Well, they're not saying that they're going to be nicer or gentler. They're going to be better. But I mean, look at this. Well, what a surprise. The police aren't actually being reformed. They're being given orders by people who are essentially, in a roundabout way, although not having been convicted, of being a war criminal. So that's kind of interesting, and that really shows where the interests of the bourgeoisie really are. Now, these guys were hired by police services themselves, which shows the intent of police services themselves, that they have no intention of actually doing a better job. Because if they did, then they would have done the opposite of what they just did. And that is stop people who are, in my opinion, murdering psychopaths. And get people who are trained to handle situations better, or to educate officers better on handling people with mental illness and not shooting people because of their skin color. But apparently that's just the way it's going to be. So, think about that the next time one of these Democrats, one of these liberals tells you that they're going to reform this system and they're going to defund the police and they're going to get better training and spend more money on crisis resolving personnel like mental health experts, etc., and realize that, well, they're not really going to do it. And that they're not really going to fundamentally change the way the police operate, because the police are not there to protect the public. The police are there to protect property and property rights associated laws and the ruling class. And they agree with taking guns away from civilians because the ruling elite can always hire armed security. So they can have guns to protect themselves through private companies with armed individuals, but regular individuals aren't allowed to have guns to defend their families. You know, that's kind of like a big hypocrisy thing, and one of the best examples of that being previously when, I don't know if you remember the Rosie O'Donnell show, when she had Tom Selleck on. Tom Selleck was a defender of the NRA, and she said, you don't need guns to defend your family, while she had armed bodyguards to protect her children. So it's one rule for me, one rule for you. I'm sorry to go off on this tangent about gun rights, because that is the kind of situation we're in right now. It doesn't really have anything to do with public safety. It's about taking guns out of the hands of poor people, because the rich are still going to have them through their power in society, which is wealth. You know, which is why we remind people that Marx said, under no pretext shall the proletariat be disarmed. And this is a pretty good example of why he said that, and why we should continue to support firearm ownership in the United States and every other country around the world. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.